Good day, children. I am teacher Sulian Brodricks. I hope you are fine and keeping in good health by the grace of God. I will be teaching you Geography Chapter 6, Population. Now, it is important to study the population of a country because the economic growth and progress of society depends on the kind or the quality of population of a country. The more literate, skilled, healthy the population of a country is, the more progressive that country will be. How do you come to know about all the qualitative aspects of the population of a country? We come to know about it through the census that is taken in practically every country. Now, the organization that carries out the census of India is the Census of India Department, which is a government organization. It conducts the census every 10 years in India. In Brazil, the IGBE, that is the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, carries out the census every 10 years. The first census survey in both India and Brazil was carried out in the year 1872. In India, the census is conducted at the beginning of every decade. That is 1961, 1971. The last census was carried out in 2011, and the next census will be in 2021. In Brazil, the census is conducted at the end of the decade. That is 1960, 1970. The last census was conducted in 2010, and the next census is supposed to be conducted this year, that is 2020. We will be comparing the different compositions that go on to make on the population of Brazil and India. We will first have a look at the distribution and the density of population of India and Brazil. Look at figure 6.1b on page number 38 of your textbooks. This map gives us information on the density of population in India. India's area is 3 crore 2,87,263 square kilometers, while according to the 2011 census, its population is around 1,021 crores. Therefore, the average density of population is around 382 persons per square kilometer. India occupies 2.41% of the total land area of the world, but India supports 17.5% of the world's population. This shows that the density of population is very high, but this population is unevenly distributed in India. There are some regions with a high density or concentration of population, while there are some regions which are sparsely populated. If you look at figure 6.1a on page 38 of your textbooks, you will see that this map shows the distribution of population in India. This map has made use of the dot method to represent data. Here, one dot represents 2 lakh people. This map shows that the population is unevenly distributed in India. You can clearly see regions where the population is dense and regions where the population is sparse. The reason for this uneven distribution is the physiography of a region and the climate, which plays a very important role. In regions where fertile land and water is available for agriculture and the climatic conditions are also favorable, the density of population is very high. For example, the river basins in the peninsular region, the North Indian plains, also known as the Ganga plains, the coastal plains, the peninsular region, all these are regions where the population is very high. Another reason why the population is concentrated in a few places is also because of industries and trade that have developed there. For example, we find a lot of different kinds of industries in places like Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, etc. So the concentration of population in these places is high. On the other hand, places or regions in India where the climate is not good, like the Himalayan region in the north or the Thar desert to the northwest of India, or even places where there is dense forest or hilly region like central India and the northeastern regions of India, you can see that the population is sparse over there because of the climatic conditions and the topography of the region. We come now to the distribution of population and the density of population of Brazil. If you look at figure 6.2b, this map shows the density of population in Brazil. Now, Brazil occupies 5.6% of the total land area of the world, and it supports 2.78% of the world's population. According to the 2010 census, the population of Brazil is 19 crore, while its land area is 8 crore 5 lakh 15,767 square kilometer. So its density of population is around 23 persons per square kilometer. Look at figure 6.2a. That's a map of Brazil showing population distribution. Like India, in Brazil also the distribution of population is affected by the physiography and the climate of the region. As there is availability of water through rivers, good climate and flat land along the eastern coastal areas, agriculture and industries have flourished. So the population is concentrated in these areas. In the highlands of Brazil, the population is moderate. But along the Amazon basin, the climate is unfavorable. This is due to heavy rains all through the year, dense forests, and swampy or marshy regions. Therefore, the population is very sparse in the Amazon basin, with just a few tribes living in this region. So you see, where in the North Indian plains, the population is dense. In the Amazon basin in Brazil, the population is sparse. How do you calculate the density of population in an area. Let's take an example. Let us represent a certain number of people using a symbol. Let one human figure represent 16 people, and this green square represents 1 square kilometer. In figure A, 16 human figures are shown in 1 square kilometer. Now, in order to get the total number of people in this 1 square kilometer, we multiply 16 by 80, which gives us 1,280 people, which means there are 1,280 persons per square kilometer in figure A. In this manner, you can also calculate the density of population in figure B. We move on to those characteristics which go on to make the population composition. Now, the population composition depends on these characteristics. That is sex ratio or the male-female composition, age of the population or the age composition, growth rate, life expectancy, and the rate of literacy of a particular region or country. These characteristics are very important in revealing the quality or the kind of population a country would have. We shall first compare the sex ratio of Brazil and India. Now, what is sex ratio? It is the number of females per 1,000 males. Kindly look at page 40 of your textbook. The figures shown here is a line graph. It is evident from the line graph that there's a difference in the population or the sex ratio of the population. If you look at the line graph showing the sex ratio in Brazil, you will notice that the sex ratio of Brazil has always been more than 1,000 females per male. That is, the number of women have increased to, in 2001, to 1,080 females per 1,000 males. This situation is reversed in India. If you look at the line graph showing the sex ratio of India, the men outnumber the women. In India, you also see fluctuations in the sex ratio since the past few decades. There has been a slight increase in the sex ratio after 1991, where it was around 940 females per 1,000 males in 1961. In 2011, it has increased slightly to between 948 to 950 females per 1,000 males. We move on to the next aspect or the next characteristic. In this figure, we shall be comparing the age composition of the population. This is a very special graph called the population pyramid. The population pyramid not only studies the age composition in these two countries, Brazil and India, that is the proportion of children, youth, and old people in both these countries, but it also studies the sex ratio in each age group. In this pyramid, we can clearly see that the number of young people is more in both the countries. But on carefully observing this population pyramid, you will notice that in India, the proportion of people in the age group above 80 years is less, while the proportion of children is more. While in Brazil, the proportion of children is less, while the proportion of people in the age group above 80 years is more. This shows that Brazil's population is getting older, while in India, the proportion of youth is increasing, which means that India has a higher workforce or working population. We will compare the rate at which the population of India and Brazil is growing through this next chart that is there. What is growth rate of population? It is the rate at which the population of a particular region increases. This line graph shows the growth rate of the population of Brazil and India. If you notice, both the line graphs show a downward trend. Where Brazil's line graph shows a steep downward trend, India's line graph shows a gentle decline. This does not mean that the population is decreasing. It means that the population is increasing but at a very slow rate as compared to the previous decades, which means the rate of growth of population has gone down considerably. In Brazil, there's a sharp decline in the rate of growth of population because of lesser additions to the existing population. So, Brazil's population may decrease within the next 2 decades, while India's population growth rate was high till 1971. Now, with lesser children being born, the number of new additions to the existing population is slowly declining. In the decade 2001 to 2011, India's population in fact increased by 18.2 crore, which means that India's population will not increase rapidly. It will increase at a much slower pace than what it was increasing at in the previous decades. We will now compare the life expectancy of India and Brazil. What is life expectancy? Life expectancy is the average lifespan of people in a country or the average number of years the people in a country are expected to live. In 1960, the average number of years most people in Brazil lived was 54 years. But in 2016, this has increased to 75 years. In India, the average lifespan of Indians was 41 years in 1960. But in 2016, this has increased to 68 years. So both the countries have shown an increase in life expectancy. But the rate of life expectancy is higher in Brazil as compared to India. The reason for the increase in life expectancy is the progress made in the fields of medicine, availability of immunization through vaccines, availability of good nutritious food and healthcare. All these affect the life expectancy. Now, if the life expectancy is high in a country, it shows that this country is more developed and the standard of living has improved. So it shows that there's more development taking place in Brazil than that of India. The last characteristic that we will be comparing is the literacy rate of both the countries, that is India and Brazil, through this line graph. What is literacy rate? Literacy rate is the number of people who are literate in the given population. Brazil's literacy rate was always much higher than that of India. In 1981, the literacy rate of Brazil was 72.2, while that of India was just 40.8. In 2016, Brazil's literacy rate increased to 92.8, while India's increased to just 72.2. So Brazil showed a higher literacy rate, although the literacy rate of India did improve, but it is still much lower than that of Brazil's literacy rate. Now, the higher the literacy rate of a country, the more the skilled labor available. Also, in regions where the literacy rate is higher, society is much more progressive. So, in this lesson, we have compared the various characteristics of the population of India and Brazil. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.